Alright, hello and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about why there is no such thing as self-sabotage and why there's no such thing as just seeking pain for the fact of seeking it. Because I feel like, again, in this world that we live in, there is still so much stigma and misunderstanding around the things that we as humans do that cause us pain, that cause us destruction, that do, cause actual destruction in our lives, the actions that we take that lead to pain, that lead to relationships being really hard, that lead to us draining our finances, that lead to us damaging our health, that lead to all of these kind of negative outcomes. There's still so much stigma around these things. And there's still a real narrative in our society that people are just doing bad and harmful things because they're bad and harmful people. And we need to fix them, and we need to change them, and we need to discipline them, and we need to do all sorts of things to try to beat the badness out of them. And we still have these ideas about ourselves a lot of the time, that it's still very much ingrained in our society for us to believe that we're just self-sabotaging, or that we're addicted, or that we're weak, or that there's something wrong with us, in the sense that we have bad parts of self, or that we are fundamentally bad for doing these things, that we're just defective, that we're just choosing to do these things because we're selfish, or because we're stupid, or because we're, like I said, weak, or not trying hard enough. And this still exists huge in the self-help, spirituality, personal growth world, right? There's still so much information and so many programs and tools and healing techniques and modalities for us to, fix our broken brains, or for us to, get rid of these bad parts of ourselves, for learning how to ignore bad parts of ourselves, for trying to transcend parts of ourselves, for trying to get rid of or cleanse out of ourselves some way these bad habits and these negative parts. And like I say, like in the spirituality and the self-help and the personal growth world, I feel like this is one of the biggest places that we go and get shamed for the things that we're doing to cope with our pain. And that is really what I see to be at the root of all seemingly self-destructive, seemingly chaotic, seemingly self-sabotaging, seemingly pain-seeking actions and ways of being that we have. We still live in a world where the kind of general narrative that we have of humans and that we have of ourselves, because we absorbed that from the general narrative of society, is that we all just arrive in our adulthoods perfectly put together, perfectly capable, perfectly aware, and everyone just having an equal chance at building an awesome, stable, healthy life for themselves. And then the people who don't, right? The people who cope, who numb, who self-sabotage, who have addictions, who have any kind of behaviors that seem or are, right, in real reality, self-destructive or chaotic, are just the people who are making bad choices. The people who are just doing it wrong, the people who are less good, less intelligent, less capable than everybody else. And they need to be fixed, and they need to be changed, and like I said, or they need to be disciplined, they need to be made aware of how bad what they're doing is, and how much pain they're causing themselves and everyone else. And we still think that that's the solution to self-sabotage. And I think what we're seeing is, again, this doesn't work. It is really, really, really not working. The discipline route, super not working. The you just need to fix your broken self route, there's a reason the self-help and the spirituality and the personal growth industries are billion-dollar industries. It's not because the tools that they offer are so successful that everyone's using them. The reason these industries are such huge money makers is because they suck certain people in, and then they continue to gaslight them into believing that their problems are all their fault. And then they get convinced that if they do these tools and they do these workshops and they do these seminars and these spiritual retreats and they take the plant medicine and they do all the things and it doesn't change their behavior, rather than people being able to say, oh, it's because the thing didn't work. It's because the tool or the technique or the way that I'm being explained for why I'm doing what I'm doing and the resources I'm being given to fix this don't work. Instead, we're trained to be like, oh, I failed. I did it wrong. I'm not doing a good enough job. And this is why it didn't work. So I'm going to reinvest and reinvest and reinvest and reinvest. Because again, almost all of these tools and techniques of how to fix yourself and how to change yourself and how to get rid of your bad habits and how to get rid of your bad parts, in the beginning, because of how our brains work, we're going to get a little bit of a result because we're doing something different, right? Anyone can white knuckle their way into changing their behavior for a day or a few weeks or a month or two. That does not mean that the program is working. That does not mean that the tool is working. That means you are good at following a protocol for a short period of time because it's new and it's different and it's exciting and we're motivated in the beginning, and that is why it appears to work. But the thing is, right, when these programs of how to fix yourself and how to change yourself and how to get rid of your bad parts and all of this stuff, when we get to the point where we fall off and we can't keep doing the discipline and we fall off the path and we fall off the program, or the results just stop happening, again, rather than being like, okay, this wasn't a sustainable fix. This clearly didn't get at the root issue. That was just me acting different for a little while. Instead of seeing that, we go, oh, see, no, it worked. I had some results for a little bit. So therefore, it must be that I failed at the thing. So now I just got to buy it again. I just got to do it again. I got to do the next level of training. I got to do the next level of healing. I got to go to the next retreat. I got to do the whatever. And that is why the industry is a billion-dollar industry. Because it's not fixing people's problems. It's not helping people, generally speaking, actually get at the root of why they are in pain, why they are causing themselves pain, why they are self-destructing. It's not getting at the root of any of that. It's not understanding that we are human beings with a whole history that we need to address and that we need to work with. It's not addressing, usually, that we are a body and a system. We're not just a frontal lobe with our logic, and that's all that matters. It's not addressing that change takes time and it's really difficult. It's just saying, this is the new thing, just act in this new way. You'll be able to do it for a little while, it'll feel really great, and then you're going to fall off, and then when you fall off, you blame yourself and you get back on with buying my next program. You see? Okay. So to back up a little bit, when I say that there's no such thing as self-sabotage or seeking pain, what I mean, okay, is that there's no such thing as an actual bad part of self that is trying to hurt us. That there is a part of ourselves that its intention is to cause us pain and to cause us destruction, purely to cause us pain and cause us destruction. There is no part of self that is just bad, that is anti to us, that is trying to cause harm. That doesn't mean that there aren't parts of self that do cause harm. That doesn't mean that there aren't parts of self that do cause destruction. That doesn't mean that there aren't parts of self that we are going to have to support in their growth so that they can change their behavior. Okay? I know that this can be a really complex idea to wrap our minds around. That we're not bad. We're not broken. There is no bad part. There is no part that is just shameful, that is just horrible, that is just evil, that we have to reject, and that is wrong with us. That does not exist. And at the same time, existing at the same time, there can be parts of self that are objectively causing harm, objectively hurting us and others, that objectively do need to change in order for us to have a better experience in this life. Both of these things exist at the same time. What we need to understand is that any self-destructive behavior, any part of self that we see as bad or wrong or shameful, we must first understand that that part of ourselves is doing the best it knows how to do to try to keep us safe and to try to get our needs met. And this is where the wheels fall off for most people, because I understand when we have a behavior that seems to only cause us pain and destruction, it is very, very difficult for us to wrap our minds around the idea that this is a good part that's trying to help us. It's just hard. It's really difficult because we have an existential relationship with these parts of ourselves that are causing harm and causing destruction and causing pain. Because of course we do. They're causing harm, they're causing destruction, they're causing pain. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult for us to be able to shift our mindset enough that we can say, okay, what are you doing? What are you actually feeling? What do you need that you're not getting? How is this behavior meeting needs that I don't know how to meet in any other way? It's very challenging. Not only because it's just challenging in and of itself to do that, but also because our society has continually reinforced that we are bad and that we are shameful and that we are not good and that these bad, destructive, shameful parts of ourselves are the reason we are not loved. They're the reason we're rejected in society. They're the reason we're not getting the results in life we want to get. That's how we see them. Right? Because again, these parts of ourselves are never going to be parts that were generally well received by everyone around us and that we were trained to love. These are going to be parts that, again, we have an extra existential relationship with, because not only are they hurtful and harmful just in real reality, they are also the parts of self that have literally caused us to be rejected, to be criticized, to be judged, to be seen as bad and wrong and evil and shameful by other people. And that triggers our nervous systems into the deepest state of fight and flight we can go into. Because our nervous systems are fully programmed that rejection equals death. So not only are these parts of self causing objective harm in real reality. They are also parts of self that make other people reject us, that make other people judge us, that cause us the biggest existential crisis in life, which is, I'm not going to be loved, I'm not going to be approved of, and therefore I'm not going to be safe. So all we want to do is get rid of them. All we want to do is separate ourselves from them, try and transcend them, try and get rid of them, try and fix it as fast as possible. Because we're in fight and flight when we're interacting with these parts of ourselves. They're causing us pain, they're causing us destruction, and they're getting us rejected, and they're getting us judged, and it's just like, these parts are going to make me die. That's what we're feeling when we interact with these parts. Right? So this is why I repeat this message over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Because our brains and our bodies are going to fight with everything we have against seeing these parts as anything other than evil and something we need to get rid of. Because that higher, right, the programmed part of ourselves, the very first program in our nervous systems that we ever received as children, which was acceptance equals I'm going to be safe and I'm going to be okay and I'm going to get my needs met. Because in the temporary, codependent reality of our childhoods, we could not understand ourselves, we could not meet our own needs. Acceptance was the only thing that we had in our perception that made it so that life was good. And in our perception, rejection was being separated from our caregivers and therefore separated from God, because to us, they were God, separated from literally every source of everything we needed. That's our first program. If I am rejected, I have no access to anything. If I am accepted, everything is going to work out for me. Right? So we live by that still as adults. We still feel like if we get rejected, we're not going to be okay, we're not going to be safe, we're not going to be able to get any of our needs met. Because that first program is still in there. And then, right, we grow up in a society, we grow up in families, we grow up in conditions where fitting in, being our first program, this is what I have to do to survive. I have to fit in. I have to be what everyone around me wants me to be. The only thing I have control over is my behavior. And if I augment my behavior enough so that those around me like me, they will then understand what I need, they will understand what I want, and they will give it to me. Most of us don't recognize that we're still operating with that paradigm. We didn't grow really into adults who can say, no, my needs don't get met by being pleasing to those around me so that they will understand me and they will meet my needs. Now, as an adult, it's my job to determine what I need and to get that in real reality. So rather than, I'm hungry, so I'm going to sit on the couch and give my husband a head massage, and then I hope that he will notice that I'm hungry and he will go and get food for me. Right? And I know that's a stupid example. But again, like a lot of us, we still operate from this place of like, who do I have to please and what do I have to do to be pleasing? And that's what makes us feel like we're going to get our needs met. Because we're not yet in that cognitive space of understanding that like, no, I can determine when I'm hungry. I can determine when I want to go outside. I can determine when I need emotional connection and I need to talk and I need to express something or all of these things. And then I can do that. We're still a lot of the time operating on the I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back, I'll be what you want me to be, you be what I want you to be. And then hopefully we will then do for each other the things that we need each other to do so that we can be happy. Like most of us are still operating into this codependent thing. And we're still living like that in a codependent relationship with like society, where we still think, I gotta fit in, I gotta have the right look, I have to do the right things, and then society will accept me, and then they'll give me money, and they'll give me praise, and they'll give me acceptance, and then I'll be safe. And we're not thinking that. But that's what's going on inside in our nervous systems. Okay, so there's that. So as we're growing up in our society, where we're not trained how to connect with who and what we actually are, what kind of things work for us in terms of learning style, in terms of, schedules throughout the day, in terms of skills we have that we want to build and that we want to become proficient at so that we can give to the world, in terms of understanding our personalities and just the ways that we function and what our specific emotional needs are and our physical needs are and our mental needs are. We're not trained to get a clear view of who we are and what we need and what we want, and then how to figure out how to get those needs met within a society when we can work within a society, right? Because again, we're not individuals who just live our individual lives. We are always going to exist within the context of a society. So we're not given those tools for problem solving, for figuring out who we really are and what we really are, and then figuring out how we can best get our needs met and be a good member of community and do all of these things within a community. Rather, we're given a blueprint for this is how you're supposed to be. Right? We're all raised in a family that says these are our spiritual beliefs, this is how we express ourselves emotionally, this is how we don't express ourselves emotionally, these are the things that we're allowed to do for pleasure activities, and these are the things we're not allowed to do for pleasure activities, these are the ways we're allowed to talk, these are the ways we're allowed to dress, these are the appropriate things you can do with your life, these are the appropriate ways to exist, these are the appropriate friends to have, this is the appropriate amount you should be socializing. We're given all these rules, and we're not given the opportunity to say, those rules don't work for me. Those rules don't feel good for me. Those rules really don't support me. I need to be supported in a different way. Rather, when what we're given as the rule book doesn't feel good to us, we are trained to reject the parts of ourselves that don't fit into the rule book. Because those parts of self are an existential threat to us. Because remember, in childhood, not fitting in our nervous systems is equal to I'm not going to get my needs met and I'm not going to be okay. So we're all learning in our childhoods, these are the parts of myself I can't have. These are the parts of myself that get me rejected, that get me abandoned, that get me abused. And this can even be going on because, again, in childhood, we perceive that everything is because of and about us. We perceive that the only reason our caregivers and the people around us, who are our authority figures and our friends and our neighbors, respond to us the way that they do is because of our behavior. We are not capable of seeing that our caregivers are separate beings from us, that our authority figures are separate beings from us, that sometimes respond to us because of what they're going through, because of their life, that sometimes what they're saying and what they're doing and how they're treating us has nothing to do with us. Sometimes we're being abused and abandoned because our caregivers are incapable, because our friends are immature, because our teachers don't understand us. There were so many ways in which we could have been harmed and hurt and neglected and abused in our childhoods that had nothing to do with our behavior. But we couldn't perceive it that way. So, again, any area where we're being rejected, abandoned, abused, hurt, harmed, we are going to try to figure out how it's because of us. We are going to try to figure out what we're doing wrong, what part of ourself is being rejected. We're going to be connecting dots that maybe aren't even connectable. And we're going to be making those neural connections. This part of me is the reason mommy always yells. This part of me is the reason daddy always abandons me. This is the reason why this is happening, because of me. And then we develop existential relationships with those parts of self. And rather than those parts of self getting their needs met, those parts of self getting seen, rather than us being able to say, oh, it was never that it was a bad part of me. It was my parent doing that, independent of me. It had nothing to do with me. It was my friends. We're growing up saying, these are the parts of me that don't fit into the rule book that I have to get rid of and that are bad. And these are the parts of me that I'm blaming for any trauma that I'm experiencing. And then we grow into our adulthood with all these parts of self, all that we see as bad and wrong and threats, that are inherent parts of who we are, that are now going to act in what the spiritual community calls their shadow, right? It's like we literally are trying to cast these parts of ourselves to the nether regions of we're trying to dissociate from them, we're trying to get rid of them, we're trying to not have anything to do with them. But this isn't possible because it's a part of who we are. They're going to keep coming up, they're going to keep doing what they're doing, and then we're going to try to keep getting rid of them, and we're going to try to keep rejecting them and trying to get rid of them and doing all these things. And then it's like they are literally little child aspect parts of ourselves that get stuck in immaturity and behaving the only way they know how to behave, which is always going to be immature. And then we end up with self-destructive, chaotic, immature ways of being because we have these parts of ourselves that have been rejected and denied, and we've tried to dissociate from them as much as possible, so they got stuck in childhood and are continuing to act like children because they're stuck there. That's one part of it. Yeah? And then on the other side, right, we have needs, we have wants, we have desires, we have things we want to express, we have things that we're not getting in the rule book we were given. And these parts are going to continue to seek to get their needs met, to get pleasure, to get something in whatever way they can. And a lot of the time, this is where addictions come from. And I'm not saying that this is the diagnosis for everyone who has an addiction and this is like the surefire way to cure all addiction. I'm saying whenever we continue to go to something that seems to cause harm, any kind of substance or behavior or thing that we're doing, we always have to ask ourselves, what need is this meeting in me that I know no other way to meet? How is this a part of myself that I've tried to ignore, tried to get rid of, maybe have never even become conscious of, like never really fully seen what it is and what it needs and what it wants, because it just didn't fit in with the rule book in any way. My metaphor for this that I really love, it's like if we as beings who need vitamin C, we cannot manufacture our own vitamin C. We have to take it in through our diet. And when we don't, we develop something called scurvy. And we get symptoms of bleeding gums and poor wound healing and all of these things when we don't take in vitamin C. Imagine if we lived in a culture where we didn't understand that about ourselves, right? We had no awareness of vitamin C. We didn't even know that that was a thing. And all vitamin C rich foods in society have been judged as bad and wrong. So we throw them in the garbage. We take all of our bell peppers and our broccoli and our oranges and we throw them in the trash because they're evil and wrong and bad. And then everyone's walking around with scurvy. And we see that as just normal. We see that as just like a shitty part of life we all have to deal with. And some people are pretending that they've cured it, even though that they haven't. Like, this is kind of like the world we live in. We live in a world where people are like, yeah, no, I used to have that, but I don't have that anymore. And they sell you a fake thing because they can make it look like they don't have scurvy on the social medias. That's like what we're living in. And then we have some people, right, who just live their whole lives suffering and then have some sort of pride about that. They just learn to like be okay with it and be stoic and do what they need to do, and they just get on with it, but they're kind of miserable and in pain. And then we have some people who very shamefully eat oranges out of the garbage. And not only does society look at that and just think, that is disgusting. You are gross. You are a horrible human being. Look at you for doing that horrible, shameful, gross thing. Because we have to remember, in this fictitious society, we judge eating oranges as evil and wrong and bad because these things are evil and wrong and bad. So the people who eat them, we also judge as being evil and wrong and bad. But the people who eat the oranges out of the garbage notice that it makes their gums not bleed so much. It like gets rid of the pain a little bit. But it comes with so much shame and so much guilt and so much like, what is wrong with me that I have to do this? Everyone else seems to be fine. They're doing what they're doing and they're not eating oranges out of the garbage. What is wrong with me? Ugh, I suck. And then on top of that, because the oranges are in the garbage, because the only way we can get any vitamin C in this world where we're not understanding our needs, and we do this throw the oranges in the garbage thing because oranges are not allowed, that means that the oranges are covered in bacteria and mold and slime and all this stuff. So when we eat them, they kind of make our teeth feel better, they make our gums feel better, we kind of cure our scurvy a little bit, but we also get a stomach bug, right? We get a little bit sick. And we think like, seriously, why am I doing this? All it gets me is rejected and then I puke. I am such a gross human being. When in real reality, what's actually happening? They are a human with a need that society doesn't recognize as a need. They are a human where the only way in society to meet that need is to meet it in an unhealthy way. You see? Because it's so misunderstood, it doesn't fit into the rule book at all. There is no healthy way of getting that need met because we don't even understand what the need is and because we've demonized it. So then it looks like these people who are eating oranges out of the trash are just self-destructive and chaotic. When in real reality, their bodies are telling them, I need to eat this thing. This is the only source there is. So even though it gets me rejected, and even though it makes me have a stomach ache, it's still helping me on some level. So what would be the solution in that situation? Incarcerate those people? Send them to the mental institution? Teach them how horrible and wrong and get them to do ayahuasca? No. The answer would be, okay, why are you doing this? What's the positive intention? What are the positive outcomes of eating those oranges out of the garbage? Well, when I can separate all this stuff out, which is really hard to do, it makes my gums feel better, and it makes my wounds heal better. And that starts to give us a clue, okay, there might be something of benefit in these oranges. What could it be? And then we can start to say, oh, there's some sort of nutrient in these things that's not in any other food. And when we take in that nutrient, it does make us better. And then maybe we could say, what if we try eating the oranges not in the garbage? What if we just try eating oranges straight off the tree? And we start doing that and we realize, okay, now I don't get sick. I don't get sick because now it's not covered in bacteria. It was never the orange that was making me sick. It was the trash that was making me sick. And it was never really that it was bad to eat oranges. It's just that society made that up for some reason. You see what I'm saying? When we really start to get at why are we doing our addictive behavior, we're always going to find that there's a need in there that we're needing to meet, that there's some pleasure we're looking for, that we're not getting any other way, and all of this stuff. So what do you think about ADHD and stimulant medication? Can you be more specific? I don't really know what you mean. I think, yes, that is usually the medication that they prescribe for ADHD. So yeah, if you could just clarify your question a little bit, that'd be great. So that's what we want to think about. And like I say, it's really hard. Because again, remember, in that scenario, like that is what our self-destructive and chaotic behaviors look like to us. This is a thing that gets me rejected. This is a thing that's wrong and bad about me. It's making me sick and it's hurting my life in some way. And it's really difficult to parse out, okay, what is the need that's not being met here? What is the pain point? What is what's actually going on here? Especially when the need we have or the thing that the addictive behavior or the self-sabotage or whatever is doing for us doesn't fit in the context of the rule book we were handed. Right? Like this is Jedi level self-awareness of learning that you have a need that you didn't even know was a need to have. This is part of why this is so hard. This is why my mystery school is a million lessons where we go over this over and over and over again, and we take this deeper and deeper and deeper because it's so difficult to break through our shame and our guilt and our stories that who and what we are and what we're doing is bad and wrong and it's just destructive. Because again, to be able to separate the fear that we have because of getting rejected from the negative consequences of whatever we're doing, from the needs that are getting met, the positive outcomes, why we're doing the thing, how we think we're protecting ourselves, how we think that we're providing for ourselves in a way that we think we can't in any other way, how we're trying to fit in with a thing that we've never been able to fit into. Like a lot of self-sabotage and coping mechanisms come from us trying so hard to fit into society and to fit into culture in ways that we cannot fit and do not fit and cause us pain. And then we're coping with that pain by doing our self-sabotage and doing that, all of that, over and over and over again. Because it's the only way we know to distract ourselves from the pain of trying to fit in. So why do I then keep getting frustrated when I self-sabotage? I regret it the second I do it. Go back and listen to what I just said, right? That's what I just explained. I would encourage you to take a second and really think about that question for yourself. Why do you get frustrated? What's the story that's going on there? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, it's so hard for us to slow down and turn it around and start from the place of there's innocence here. I'm doing what I'm doing for a good reason, and I'm going to look for that, versus starting from a place of I don't believe that there's a good reason that this is happening. Because that's what most of us are doing. When we're doing our self-inquiry work, we're starting from a defensive place against ourselves. We're not actually doing true self-inquiry. Because true self-inquiry, when we're doing it from a place of starting from guilty until proven innocent, we're never going to see it. This is another reason why this is so hard. Because we have to start from the assumption that we're not bad, we're not wrong, we're not broken, there's something good there. Without the evidence. We will find the evidence when we start from that place. But when we start from the place of defense against ourselves, that's all we're going to see. we're literally never going to make any progress towards understanding ourselves. Because so long as we're starting from that defensive place, I don't actually believe there's something good here. This is just bad. All I can see are the negative consequences, and so you prove it to me that there's something good. So long as we start from that, we're never going to see it. And that's why I'm saying this is so hard. And that's why my mystery school is repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating the compassion message. Because it's the only way. And it's the exact opposite of what society teaches us to do. Right? We are taught from day one that when there's pain, defend yourself against it. Fight it. See it as bad immediately. How can you get rid of it? And this is why we are a culture that's trapped in shame spirals that turn into destruction. Every chaotic, destructive thing we see in society. So do we fake it at first when our critical belief system is so ingrained? Fake it is not the right word. We learn how to show up for ourselves like an innocent child. Like, it's not faking it. It's we need to develop a new skill set. This is why I call it emotional mastery. We have to develop a new skill set of showing up for a part of ourselves that's in pain with compassion and curiosity instead of defense and judgment. And I don't think you can fake it. We have to learn how to show up for ourselves differently. We have to learn, right? Like, just like we would never want to go to a 1-year-old who just fell down and is crying and look at them and be like, why did you fall down? Why are you crying? Stop that. Right? That would be seen as a completely inappropriate reaction. They are in pain. They are crying. They are causing a ruckus. They are demanding energy and attention. And we know instinctively and intuitively the way you want to handle that is with love and compassion. I'm so sorry. What just happened? Are you okay? That is what we want to have for ourselves when we are in pain. And that's why I said this is why this is so hard. And this is why I still get on a weekly basis, yeah, but if I love that part of myself, it's just going to take over. It's bad. It's wrong. It's shameful. I have to hate it. I have to fight it. No, you don't. Because it's that hating it and that fighting it and that trying to get rid of it that keeps us stuck in it. The only way forward is if we learn a new way of relating to ourselves. And that's why I'm saying this self-love work is a practice, because it is hard when we are in pain to not immediately go into defense against ourselves. That's what we do. That's how we try to fix it. That's how we try to defend ourselves against it. That's how we try to get rid of it. That's how we try to do that's what we have been trained to do. So learning how to be in pain, to be causing destruction, and to show up with compassion, like an open heart. What's going on? How are you hurting? What do you need right now? I'm so sorry. Because again, shame and guilt and blame is a defense against pain. That's another thing, is we never learned how to properly process our pain. We learned how to self-destruct, how to numb, how to cope, how to scapegoat, so that we don't have to feel it. We learned how to shame ourselves when we're in pain, Because again, what's that first program? If I'm in pain, it's because I'm being rejected. Even when that is not objective truth, that's what our bodies think. So when we're in pain and we're not getting our needs met, our immediate thought is shame. What part of myself do I need to blame for this pain, and how can I get rid of it? Because our bodies still believe if I'm in pain, it's because I'm being rejected, and therefore the solution is to change myself to be more pleasing. That's what shame is. That's all shame is doing. It only knows that the only source of pain could be rejection. The only source of pleasure is being accepted. So if I'm in pain, I must be being rejected somewhere. So I need to fix myself by figuring out what part of me is bad so that I will be accepted. That's what shame is doing every single time. So when we really start to question, no wait, why do I have shame about that? Why is that part of me bad and wrong? We're often going to find, okay, what I'm actually feeling is sad that someone just broke my boundary. I'm feeling hungry. I'm feeling like I hate my job. I'm feeling like trying to fit into this thing and this thing and thing doesn't work. It's not that I am actually bad or wrong and that there's something broken with me. It's that me trying to fit in is causing me pain. Or it's not that I'm being rejected that I'm in pain. I'm in pain for other things. So what are your thoughts on emotional numbness? It's a coping mechanism. It's a very intelligent coping mechanism. When we don't know how to process what we're going through, when we don't know how to feel what we're feeling, when we have no empowerment within it, what are our two options? Feel it and be helpless, or go numb. It's a very intelligent coping mechanism to go numb. Just don't feel it. Right? So again, this is very complex. But we need to learn to show up for ourselves assuming innocence. To show up for ourselves saying, where are you hurting? Where are you not getting your needs met? Where were you trained that how and who and what you are is not okay? Where are you not aware of what you need? Where was the origins you were given, the rule book you were given, not working for you? Where is it not you? Where is it society? Like, there's so many layers to this. I can't give every single person on here, the tool to why you have your self-sabotage, because it's different for all of us. There are many reasons. There are many, 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 many reasons. But the theme, the umbrella of it all, is that this part is doing the best it knows how to do to keep you safe. That is always why you are self-sabotaging. Every single time, no matter what, every single time. I've never seen anything different. I've never once seen the person who actually is just causing harm and is just destructive and there's nothing positive behind it. Because at the end of the day, we are still just animals. We are seeking pleasure and trying to get away from pain. Our one thing we want to do is keep ourselves alive. That's what our biology is driving us to do 24/7. So we can get our wires super, super crossed about what actually supports us in staying alive. We can get to a point where an addictive, self-sabotaging behavior is the best way we know how to meet a need we get met in no other way. So when we take away the addiction, we feel worse because now we just don't get that need met at all. You see what I'm saying here? We are never self-sabotaging because we're just bad and wrong and stupid, or there's a part of us that just wants to hurt us. But in order to actually see that, again, it is so difficult because a lot of the time it means seeing that our conditioning, the rule book we were handed for this is how to fit in and therefore how to be safe, is wrong. That doing what we have to do to fit in and being who we have to be who we're supposed to be, directly contradicts what we actually need. So then we have two parts of ourselves. The part of ourselves that thinks the only way to survive is to fit in. And therefore, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I have to do to get myself to fit in. And I'm going to feel like I'm going to die anytime I try to stray from that. And then we have the part of ourselves that's saying, but in real reality, this is what I actually want, and this is what I actually need, and this is what is actually good for me. And it gets me rejected. So now we have pain either way. Right? We have pain when we do what gets us accepted. Because sure, it gets us accepted, but that doesn't actually meet our need, or doing what we need to do to be accepted objectively causes us harm. So we have pain and pleasure at the same time. Or we do what we actually need to do, or we quit doing the thing that gets us loved and approved of. So that causes pleasure. But we're being rejected and we're being abandoned. Or we even just feel like we're going to be rejected and abandoned, and then we feel like we're going to die. So you see why this is so confusing? Because like on the one hand, this feels good and bad, and then this feels good and bad, and it's hard to get clarity. So again, why I say the mystery school is so long. Because this untangling of who we actually are and what we actually need and what's conditioning and what isn't and all that stuff, it is not easy. It is not a short process. Depending on how different your conditioning was from what you actually want and what you actually need, is the degree to which this is going to be really difficult. And then societally, right, we also have to understand that we live in a really, really toxic society. And so much of what we are taught, of what we have to do and have to be good, successful, normal people in our society, is totally fucked up in real reality. Being in a constant state of competition, being in a constant state of I need to be up-leveling, I need to be expanding, I need to be growing, I need to be getting better, I need to be doing more, I need to be constantly consuming and constantly producing. And that's what makes us good in our society. But in real reality, the actual results are we're destroying the environment, we're destroying one another, we're destroying ourselves in order to be good. You see? Like just that alone. It's no wonder that most of us walk around with coping and numbing and self-sabotaging behaviors. Because to deal with the pain of that, just that alone, is going to cause a lot of us to do a lot of things to try to cope with the pain of that. Do you see what I'm trying to say here? There's no bad part of you. You're coping with a sick society. You're doing your best to keep your head above water in a culture that causes you to do things that cause you and other people pain in order to be good. And we are an interconnected group of people who do need one another. So to just completely go your own way is horrifying. And most of us don't need to completely go our own way. But you see what I'm trying to say here. It's complex. So just because there are parts of you that are doing things that are chaotic and destructive, the first step is always, how is this helping me? How is this helping me get a need met? How is this helping me deal with pain? How is this helping me manage and numb the pain of these other things that maybe I'm not even aware are painful? Because I'm not allowed to feel pain doing that. That's the right thing to do. Like it can be really, 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 really hard to see the things we've been conditioned to do that hurt. Because our automatic reaction when we do something that we've been conditioned to do that hurts is to shame ourselves. That's how we cope with that. We feel pain, And then we automatically say, how is this my fault? What am I doing wrong? Instead of, how is that wrong? Maybe what I've been conditioned to do isn't right. Because then again, right, and then we have to question our foundations. That opens up the whole existential box. So most of us are going to spend the rest of our lives just fighting with our self-sabotage and coping behaviors, saying, this is the problem, if I could just get rid of this, I'd be happy. Instead of being able to see that, like, no, this is how I'm coping with a life I'm not happy with. If I got rid of the behavior, I wouldn't be happy. I would be probably in more pain because I just took my coping mechanism away for the thing that's actually causing me pain. We're not in pain because of our self-sabotage. Our self-sabotage is trying to rescue us from pain. Our self-sabotage is trying to get us to fit into a thing so that we will be accepted, even though that thing feels horrible to us. Or the self-sabotage is trying to stop us from doing a thing that would be right for us, to try to save us from the rejection and therefore the death it thinks will happen if we do that thing. And peeling that apart and picking out what's actually going on, it's tough. So that's why, again, most of us just fall back into, no, this is just bad and wrong. Because that would be so much easier if that were true. It would be so much easier if we could just say, this is just a bad part of me and I need to get rid of it. And I will be happy when that happens. It's much harder to look at the reality that maybe life doesn't feel good. And maybe what I've been taught to do is the thing that hurts. And trying to figure out what's actually right for me and what isn't is way more complicated. And trying to support these parts of myself in getting their needs met in new and different ways. Maybe needs that I've been told I'm not supposed to have, I'm not allowed to have, that don't fit into being a good person. I have to figure out how to meet them in different ways, and to coach myself through the feeling of loss and rejection and being scared that's going to come up when I do something different. It's a lot. So you see why our brains want to just go to, it's just bad, I just need to get rid of it. Because again, that would be so much easier. Actually seeing what's going on behind these things is a lot more complicated. But in the end, it gives us the capacity to actually be able to help ourselves. But we have to show up with compassion first. That's why those fundamental tools of compassion and curiosity are what I give to everybody. Because without that, none of this matters. None of this is possible. We're not ever going to really see anything or be able to do anything with anything that we see if we can't show up with compassion first. And no, we don't want to fake it. We want to learn how to actually be compassionate with ourselves. To give ourselves the benefit of the doubt, meaning we don't yet see what the positive intention is. We don't know how it's helping us. We have to assume that it's good before we know, and then we will see. So that's what this is all about. That's what my mystery school is all about. It's hard. It's not easy. It goes against all of our conditioning. That's why this path is not popular, and why we have so many defenses against it. Because it opens up a huge can of worms. But it's a good can. At least I think so. Okay, so that's that. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Come check out the mystery school. We meet once a month. It's really great. Other than that, I think you're great. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not bad. There's no bad part of you. And I'll see you when I see you. All right? Ta-ta.